I've been challenged to predict the entire World Cup. Lucky for me though, is that I quite like to go about predicting things. So these are my final World Cup predictions, but before I give you them, please don't forget to subscribe.
Do it.
So let's start off with Group A, the group that starts its campaign today as of the time of recording this video. We have Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal and the Netherlands. And I'm just going to say straight off the bat that the Netherlands are now going to be taking the number one spot in this group, and I don't think that's debatable, considering the fact that Senegal, possibly their closest competition, have gone ahead and lost their star man Sadio Mane to injury. However, I do think they're still going to come second place, possibly even able to pick up a result against the Netherlands, considering their choice of goalkeeper is a little bit iffy after the manager's beef with Krul. So, the last two slots, of course, the opening game, Qatar versus Ecuador, is probably going to be decided by that game, and I think that Ecuador are going to have just enough in them to bypass the hosts and possibly inflict the host country's first ever first game defeat. Group B is possibly one of the most open groups in the entire World Cup. A lot of people are, of course, and for good reason, expecting England to come first because their stellar squad is essentially everything that the Premier League is good for. However, they are off form and their manager Gareth Southgate plays a very negative brand of football. So for that reason, I'm going to be entirely biased and say they don't make it out of the group stage whatsoever. Wales and the USA are topping the group. It doesn't matter what happens on Monday night. Honestly though, I don't know if I'm being too biased about that, because these are two teams that are on some decent form. Of course, for the USA, you have players like Weston McKennie, who is essentially reviving a Juventus team. Yes, there are some other players on that squad who are particular quality. However, he is in the midfield, so he's essentially running the entire side. Along with that, Wales have Gareth Bale, they have Kiefer Moore, who has a desire to knock England specifically out of the World Cup, and I think for them, their success in this tournament will be whether or not they can get one over on their biggest rivals. In terms of the third and fourth position, I will definitely be saying that England do pick up a result against Iran. That would be an absolute travesty, and Gareth Southgate would be fired on the spot if that didn't happen. So I know that's going to be controversial, and I'm going to get a lot of comments down below saying that England should be going through. And while I could see it happening, I'm going to err on the side of this being my dark horse pick for this group stage. Moving on then to Group C, we have Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Senegal and Poland. I don't need to explain to you why Argentina are taking the first spot in this group, because they... Oh, hang on, we haven't clicked it right. Because they have Messi. And if you have Messi on your team, you automatically top a group that doesn't have remotely close to the quality of Messi. Yes, of course, Poland have Robert Lewandowski. However, his form has slightly dipped off recently, given that the entire club of Barcelona has been knocked out of the Champions League. He's possibly not totally motivated from a club standpoint anymore. However, for Poland, he is going to be just as ruthless as normal, and I can see them coming second in this group stage. Mexico and Saudi Arabia are going to follow up in third and fourth place, respectively. Moving on to Group D, and it's one where the supposed champions curse could come into effect. You have France, whose players are dropping like flies. And for that reason, I'm going to be saying that Denmark are going to top this group over France. Of course, I am going to say that the champions curse cannot possibly happen this time around. France's team is still total quality, even if it does lack Karim Benzema, who's gone out injured. Of course, N'Golo Kante, one of the main standout players for France last time around when they won the whole tournament in 2018. And Pogba with his stilted recovery also. I'm going to put Australia in over Tunisia. Personally, I think their goalkeeper is phenomenal. Of course, he dances in the goal when someone takes a penalty against them. If this team get to the knockouts and are able to pull off draws, look out. They do really put off the striker. However, I'm not saying they're going to have enough to top two particularly potent European sides. Moving on to Group E, and this one may be isn't as easy to predict as it was a few months ago. A few months ago, I would have said Germany first, Spain second, end of story, and even the two of those can be flipped around on their head. Maybe Spain can pull off a result against Germany, who knows? Now Japan are really in the mix. I'm going to say it, Germany's form is bad. It's just bad. I'm not going to say they're not going to make it out of the group. I'm not going to say they're not going to do well in the knockouts because historically Germany are a side who do well in knockout stages. But I'm going to say that Japan are going to be a really, really good third place side this time around. And I'm going to flip around my rankings and say Spain are going to top Germany. This is just a group stage ranking, so please don't hold me to this when we get to the knockouts. That's all I'm going to say for now. Group F is another one of those that is really, really open. Belgium are off form despite being the former number one ranked side in the world. Canada are completely on form and fired up to be here. We've got Morocco, who are off a little bit of form as well, and Croatia, who are just a solid side overall. So who do I think is going to top this group? Well, that would be Croatia, because they are just that solid. And I've seen a lot of people say that Modric is getting too old. He just isn't. Come on. Real Madrid have just won the Champions League. They're pretty much unstoppable at the minute, and I think that form's definitely going to carry over into the Croatian national side. For the second place, I'm going for another out there shout, and I'm saying that Canada are able to take this off of Belgium. Belgium's form has been particularly bad recently. They lost to Egypt, and I mean, if you're losing to a side who's not in the World Cup, then can you really expect to pull it off when you get to the tournament? And yes, I know it was just a friendly, however, these things are taken into consideration for every prediction, and this is no different. I'm going to say, though, they definitely will have the quality to bypass the Moroccan team. Group G is definitely an easier one to predict than normal because we have Brazil. And the minute you have Brazil, they automatically top the group. That's just the way it goes. If there's no other massive team in there, there is no question about whether Brazil will top this. They've got Neymar, they've got Vinicius Jr., you just can't stop their attack. It's impossible. And Gabriel Jesus has found new life at Arsenal, so I would not be surprised if they come good in this tournament. For the second place spot, it's a little bit more interesting. Cameroon even are a fantastic African side, and they have Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting and, of course, a player from my own club, Olivier Ncham, who's just changed over from France. So I'll be following them in particular. However, I don't think they're going to be the ones to make it out of this group, unfortunately. I'm going to say that that will be Serbia, because Alexander Mitrovic's form last season in the championship was just brutal. It was absolutely impossible to defend against. And now in the Premier League, it seems to be finally carrying over. So I'm going to say they get through ahead of Switzerland, whose defence is usually solid, but their goalkeepers are suffering injury at an alarming rate. Cameroon, unfortunately, I can see them coming fourth. Unless that form really is a genuine fact, and it's not just the case that any striker can play well with Bayern Munich. Moving on to the last group, we have Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. Going through in first place here is Piers Morgan. I mean Portugal. And you can tell, just by the sheer fact that Portugal is already in the number one spot, how many times I've had to re-record that section. However, this is going to be a real test to show whether Ronaldo is genuinely dipping in form, or if he's just annoyed at Manchester United and throwing his toys out of the pram. That being said, I do think it's the former of these two, and Portugal will be on stunning form throughout this group. The second spot is definitely one that's up for grabs. Uruguay have Darwin Núñez, Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani. South Korea obviously have Heung-min Son, and Ghana have some pretty decent strikers from the Premier League era as well, that being Andre and Jordan Ayew. However, I can definitely see Uruguay getting through this group stage, with South Korea in third and Ghana in fourth. Hopefully, for Ghana though, they will pick it up because many of their players have also played for my club in the past, so that's another team that I will in fact be following. Moving on to the round of 16, the opening game, if this were to come true, would be the Netherlands versus USA. Yeah, Netherlands are winning this. They're absolutely on unstoppable form throughout the Nations League. They won their group in the Nations League that contained Belgium, and I don't see the USA really being able to get past them. If you're saying that the Netherlands have a goalkeeper problem, it doesn't even compare to the quality that the USA have. Yes, they've got some star players, however, the Netherlands are just an established side, and I can see them breezing past the USA. The next match, though, is not an easy breeze whatsoever. Argentina versus France. This, for any neutral, would be one of the best games to watch of the whole tournament, but for anyone who's actually supporting a side, I'm so sorry if this is to happen, because this is probably where your heart rate rises well above 257.3, because this is a really hard game to go for. I'm going to say, though, that Argentina are going to get their revenge this time, and Messi is going to take it to an injured France. The 51st match of this World Cup would be Wales against Senegal, a particularly interesting team for both sides, really. Senegal don't have their star man. Wales rely completely on their star man. With that being said, though, who do I think would get through? I know it's going to sound biased, but I'm going to say Wales will beat Senegal if this is to happen. And I know this is a big if for this team, because they would have to top the group in order for this to come true. However, I can't see Senegal without Sadio Mane really being able to make an impact in the knockout stage, which for them is a real shame, because I do think with their player, they would have gone very, very far in this tournament, and definitely this match would have been swayed. Moving on to Denmark versus Poland, it's Denmark, and we all know that. They're incredible in Europe. At the moment, the Euros, they reached the semi-finals. Nations League, they won the group with France in it. And they didn't actually win the group with France in it, because Croatia were there, and they did just that. And that just shows the quality of these sides. But they will definitely have enough to beat Poland, who very nearly got relegated from League A of the Nations League this time, despite having Robert Lewandowski at their disposal. I don't know if I really need to talk about this next game, because barring a massive upset, and I'm not saying it can't happen, Spain would breeze past Canada, unfortunately for them, and that would bring their first ever World Cup to a conclusion. Would it be a successful run? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below if you are a Canada fan. Would this, getting onto the group stage, containing Croatia and Belgium, and even Morocco, be a success for you guys? Match 54, Brazil versus Uruguay. I'm not counting Brazil out just yet, and I don't think you should either, because of that attack that I mentioned earlier. Now I'm going to talk about their defence for a little bit, because they've got Marquinhos, Thiago Silva. They're just an overall awesome team. I just need to say the names. You probably understand how good these players are already. Uruguay, despite having an awesome attack, of course, Nunez, Suarez, they are going to fall apart defensively against a side with some of the brightest attackers in the world. Croatia versus Germany, again, possibly one of the most interesting games of the entire World Cup if this was to happen. Why do I say that? Well, because Croatia are the most ragged underdog side in the world that can still pull off awesome results. And when I say awesome results, they got to the final last time, so I'm not counting them out yet. However, this is Hansi Flick's Germany. And to put that into perspective, this is a manager who took a side on rubbish form, 6th in the Bundesliga, and brought them to win all 6 available trophies. Can this man turn Germany's form around? Yes. This is a knockout stage game. He will know what to do. Germany are going through. This last match of the round of 16 would in fact be a repeat of the playoff game, or the game that would put a side in the playoffs, if that's what you want to say. Portugal versus Serbia. And the fact that this game has already happened and only one side has continued to improve actually makes me think that Serbia would be able to pull off a result yet again. Don't forget, this now is on neutral ground compared to when it was at home for Portugal last time. I can see Serbia getting through this, and if you want to know why, you can just go back and have a look at Mitrovic's final involvements in that last game. I've already talked about him. He's awesome. They've got Filip Kostic, who in that time has gone on to win the Europa League. I can definitely see Serbia pulling this off yet again. Into the quarterfinals, and we have some absolute whopper games. Netherlands versus Argentina to start off with. I'm going to have to put Argentina through purely because of Messi. I think they're going to go much further than the quarterfinals for now. But the Netherlands are going to give them, by far, their best game of the entire tournament. I can't see ruling them out as a guarantee to be the best decision. However, Argentina just have that star power that maybe a balanced team like the Netherlands are lacking a little bit more. Spain versus Brazil would be the ultimate defensive side against the ultimate attacking side, and would probably cancel each other out for a very large portion of the game. And as you can probably tell, these are sides who could be going at least semi-finals and final in themselves. However, one has to be knocked out here and now in the quarter-final stage. It's going to have to be, for me, that Brazil go through, despite the fact that a sort of Spanish Renaissance is happening right now for their team. Maybe with the youth they have, in the Euros or even the next World Cup, they could make a genuine run towards winning the entire tournament. But for now, the attack of Brazil should pull through. Unfortunately, I can't see a way through for Wales this time around in this quarter-final match. Denmark are more than likely going to win, given that they won this same match in the round of 16 in the Euros by a scoreline of 4-0. Yes, there's the caveat of, oh, but Wales had a red card. Oh, but Denmark were just a class above altogether. Denmark, for the second time around, would reach the semi-finals of a major tournament, and Wales would better their last result. They'd get to the quarterfinals where they lost last time. Maybe they could pull something off this time around, but I just can't see it happening. Germany versus Serbia, the last of the quarterfinals, would be the side that can't attack versus the side who have all the attackers in the world. And unfortunately for Serbia, the side that can't attack just so happen to have one of the best attacking coaches, as I've already said, in the entire world. So for me, that's going to mean that Germany are going to be able to top Serbia. However, this is going to be an incredibly close game, and if Germany come into this as a complacent side, given that they won a World Cup way more recently than Serbia even had a chance at this. Serbia are a considerable underdog, of course, in this tournament overall, despite beating Portugal. If they come into this complacent as being a world football powerhouse, they could very easily see themselves sent home by this Serbian side. The semi-finals, oh, here we go. We've got the first one, Argentina versus Brazil. Probably one of the biggest South American derbies you can have, be it club football or international football. In fact, no, this is the biggest. Neymar versus Messi. Well, if you wanted someone to go back to PSG and start the discontent, here you go. PSG, if this happens, they're gone. Argentina have beaten France, there goes Mbappe. Now, Argentina or Brazil have to play each other. One wins, one goes home between Messi and Neymar. There's going to be some bitter disappointment there. PSG gone for the rest of the season if my predictions come true. However, for this World Cup, I can see Argentina pulling it off against Brazil. This is the closest any prediction of the video is, in my opinion, but I can just see it happening for Argentina over Brazil. Messi is being fueled by a whole country. Denmark seem to be being involved in some very polarizing games. They either win easily, in my opinion, or they get sent home very, very quickly. Denmark are an incredibly balanced team, possibly the team who get the most out of the least overly flashy and talented players. But I just can't see them getting through Germany. I said at the start of this video that in the World Cup group stage, Germany's form will be poor. However, the longer that Hansi Flick gets with this German side, the better and better their form will be. And by the semi-finals, if they do make it this far, that bad form will likely be completely out the window, and we will be returning to a Germany side very similar to the one that had Hansi as the assistant coach in 2014. What was the final in 2014, you might ask? Argentina versus Germany. That's right, it's happening again. And in the final, who do I think will be able to pull this off? Will Messi end the wait for the World Cup? The last trophy he needs? Or will it be Germany once again to finally take the last chance Messi has and throw it out the window? Well, in my opinion, that's exactly what's going to happen. Germany are my World Cup winners. I'm going to caveat this by saying they're more than likely to be knocked out in the group stage, more so than they are to lose in the knockouts. If Japan can bypass them, it will be deserved. But if Germany get out to the group stage, which is looking relatively likely, they are going to win this World Cup, in my opinion. Their manager relies on momentum, and if they get going, they are going to really get going. Niklas Füllkrug has been incredible at second tier Werder Bremen, and all of a sudden he has shot them up the Bundesliga. They are technically competing for Europe, if you want to believe they're going to stay that way. As it is right now, I think they're in about 7th place, which is ridiculous for a side who should be fighting to survive relegation. And he's the striker. He's the man that the goals are going to come through. Also, Youssoufa Moukoko, a young player for Borussia Dortmund, he's going to be getting goals in this tournament. And who can forget about Thomas Müller and the Bayern Munich midfield of Leon Goretzka and Joshua Kimmich. This is going to be a side to watch in this World Cup. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.